Hey, and good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Welcome to. I'm here. George Adlerman. I'm here with Justin Pacina and Marianne Dobrowski. I might have said it wrong, but I think so. After 5 years, I got close. So today, a really great topic. We haven't been doing as many of these, but we wanted to give you some more meat and potatoes on these. And one thing we're working on today is something that is we seem to be our number one requests. Number one, people ask us questions about is about Teams and Teams features and functionality. So what we thought we'd do is do like a quick review of the updates of the spring 2020 that Microsoft released a couple weeks ago, and there's some really great stuff. So I'm going to say, first off, before we dive deep into this, we'll say thanks a lot. I really appreciate everyone liking and subscribing these features. We have some new ones coming down the pike, some things a little more in depth. So please stay tuned, and we're going to go out there. And all right, let's get started. So Marianne, what's the number one first feature?
So we actually discovered this one on accident. Like the ones that we're going to get into later are a little bit more comprehensive, and we purposefully were like, look at all the new features. But this one we discovered on accident is that you can now pop out conversations. So if you like having conversations in a new tab, you can do that now. So you could be looking at your SharePoint while you're talking to someone or a group of someone's. It's really easy to do. You just hover over their name, and then there'll be a little icon that's like looks like a pop-up, or just double click them and it pops right out. So it's really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. See, so that one we discovered by accident as well. But there are two ways to do it.
So it's almost like instead of having to go into the application, you can just like do a quick response kind of thing that pops up in the lower corner. Is that a kind of extension of that?
Or also like make it a little easier if you want to use the Windows Snap feature. You can throw one to the side, throw one to the side, and be looking at two things at once.
Oh, that's very cool.
I've used this a lot because I, in the office had 4 monitors, and now I'm down to 2. So
how do you live?
Oh no!
I know. So I've been trying to find better ways to make use of my screen real estate, and especially if I'm working with one of the techs on something, and I have like 3 pages up as reference, and remote it into a machine, and all this other stuff. You could just take the little chat window, drag it to the side, and use it that way, and it's been super useful.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the limitations of this is it's not going to do the audio or video calls. It really is just text-based chat, but still very cool.
That's great. Awesome. So the next one we have was some massive changes to the underlying video. So I think let's just go through those real fast. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people are using video conferencing all the time now. So they really need to step up and be competitive, and they did. So the big one that I really like, because I've got a lot of stuff back here, is background settings. So you always used to be able to do blur, like blur your background, and it would just be kind of fuzzy. But they moved that. It used to be the only thing you can do. Now you have to go to background settings, located in the same place as blur used to be. They've got the option in the top right corner to blur, or they've got pre-built backgrounds for you that you can use. So in the picture there, it looks like I'm in a nice apartment, but you could tell in my glasses, I'm clearly not. That's a different background color.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
And some of them are fun. One is like at the beach and things like that. So, you can do some fun ones, but in general, it's very useful if you've got like a weird background or just a lot of stuff you don't want people to see.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you do your own backgrounds, make your own things? I know it's popular in certain other applications.
Yeah, so we have a thing down, a short video about how to apply the background effects, which is up on the screen. I didn't go into customized background effects because it's not sanctioned right now.
Yeah.
If you know the way, there's a workaround.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The short version is there's a folder where you would put those pictures, and then they show up. It's just not in. You have to go into that folder specifically, and it's a hidden folder. I can post the the path to do it later.
Gotcha.
Anyone that's curious, but it's.
I assume it's App Data somewhere.
Yeah, it's
one of those.
One of those.
Gotcha.
And it's basically like making your own mods, but for teams.
Yeah,
sounds pretty cool. Very cool. I see some here. There's some new functionality in bigger meetings, which I know is how does that work? Actually, before I get there, what was the other video off? Audio off? What's the deal with that one?
Audio off was always a thing. So if you joined a meeting that was 4 people or more, it would give you a message while you're joining, and it says, "Hey, we're turning your audio off because you're joining this meeting, we don't want you to interrupt. So you have the option to turn your audio back on and be like, hey guys, I'm here, whatever. But it really is a good way for you to just not interrupt and have background noise and stuff like that. But they started doing video off by default as well for big meetings, which is also good, because you don't want someone popping up and they're like in the middle of like, oh, okay. Yeah. And I mean, visually is very distracting too, to see changes. So to have that off by default is pretty cool too.
Also, well, actually, the video often matters more because now you can have how many people in there?
You can now have up to 9 participants.
Huge.
Filling it. Yeah, it used to only be 4. So you would just have this block of 4, and then if you had more people, you actually couldn't even tell really that they were there, but unless you looked at the participant list. So they changed that now. It's up to 9 people, and if there are additional people, they're on that bottom row where you can actually just see my picture on there.
Right.
But if you had people who were non-video participants or just additional videos, they're all down there, so you can like see that there's more people very easily. And they sort of grid that out. So this is 7 people, so it's not even, but they still gridded it out like that. So.
Oh, very cool.
And just to be clear that it's 9 video feeds showing at the same time, you can have way more people in there than that with their video on. It just will only show you the 9 most active or most recently active people as opposed to 4.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And that's based on who's talking. So if someone's not talking, they're going to get to the bottom of the list, but it pops them back up.
That's an interesting algorithm that must be behind all that stuff. So the whole under the hood. Very cool. Very cool. So and actually, so the next really big functionality that we saw, and we've been using it quite a bit in our own internal meetings, is the managing the participants of the meeting. So I would love to get the deep dive from you, Mary. I know you've been working a lot on this.
Yeah, well, I feel like we've been recommending Teams for people, obviously, a lot. And some people want it for doing things like webinars. And while you could use it in the past for webinars, it really wasn't built out for that. You got a lot less control. For one thing, people would be as active in the participation as anyone who's a panelist or a host. So they've sort of divided that out now. They've split it into attendees and panelists. We made a little documentation about the differences. Really easy. Basically, it's mostly just who has control. So panelists can show their screen. They can invite new people. Attendees are just there to observe. They also default to not having video or audio. They would have to be get permission to show their video or audio. So that's pretty cool. But even things like, even if you're not doing like a big webinar or an outside meeting, mute all option is great. If you hear noise, you don't have to be like, who's got the train noise? You can just mute everybody who's not talking.
It's true.
And anyone who's a panelist, you don't have to be like the organizer to do that. They can have a mute all button, and then those people can unmute themselves as appropriate.
So all panelists have a mute all.
Yep.
But attendees do not.
Attendees do not. Attendees can't control any of that stuff.
You can actually. Just pawns in the game, it sounds like.
Yeah.
All right, got it. All right.
It's funny, the panelists have a lot of control. Like they can mute and unmute people. They can change people from attendee to panelist. So that's good if you've got if you're doing a Q&A and an attendee, we'll talk raising their hands, but they can be turned into a panelist so that they can be like, oh, look, this is how I did it. Let me share my screen. And then you can demote them back down. So all panelists can do that. And you can even, if the 3 of us are in a Teams chat, I can make JP a panelist. I mean, an attendee when we were all panelists, just to be, tricky.
And then mute me so I can't say anything. Yeah, and this is different than where there still is the ability to do the live events, which is more for a bigger broadcast audience, and that where you're set up with somebody as a producer and managing how everything runs through, and somebody as a presenter. This is kind of a middle ground there that really fits a need that people have, where you're not producing a huge event for 1,000 people to watch like a keynote. You have 5 people talking and you have another 10, 15 people watching. So this
I mean, it's a lot. It's really good for training, instructional purposes, things like that. Or it could even just be you're inviting a couple people. It doesn't even have to be outside of your company. It can be an all staff meeting, and you have important things to say as the president, and people shouldn't be interrupting with their jokes. You can unmute them at the end, and then they can have camaraderie.
Look at you, Matt.
Yeah, but it is. Let's get the serious stuff first, and then
Right.
I'll unmute everybody, and we can talk opinions, questions, any of that.
Got it.
And speaking of getting input, the next thing I have on here is hand raising. So, yeah, that's a very common feature of a lot of video chats. And hand raising is important because it's so you don't have to interrupt and say, "Oh, wait, I have a thing." You can just click the hand raise, and whether or not you've been muted, whether or not you're attendee or a panelist, you can say, "Hey, I have some information to input," or "I have a question." So it's a pretty good way to get your attention. Yeah, and it's right there in the middle. It's really easy to raise your hand. I've done it on accident, but you just click it again to unraise your hand.
So can a panelist unraise someone's hand?
Yeah.
A panelist is allowed to do that. So if you're a panelist and someone's
Panelist
hand
and organizer
raised,
pretty much have all the same.
I got you. Okay. So
Yeah.
if someone's like, all right, put your hand down. Like,
Yeah.
like one of a teacher, like enough of you. All right, that makes sense. That makes sense. I guess it's much better. That's a much more easy way to see it when you have more than numbers on the screen, because now I know in meetings we have people doing like, hey, let me say something. So you're trying to eliminate that. That's great.
Or
Sure.
Sometimes people are like, "Oh, I've got something to say. I just won't say it." They're on a roll. So it's a good way to get that feedback from people who are a little less likely to interject.
So that's great. So we have a great comment from Mr. Stefan Kaup, as usual. He always is a great person to talk to us.
Yeah.
So Stefan's question is, can you invite people outside your organization to join a team within your organization in order to collaborate? Are there limitations, or can you video, chat, call, share files? So
you can definitely invite people outside your organization to join a team. There is a lot to do with collaboration. You can set a lot of the limitations. There's a lot of permission setting, more on the administrator level, for specifically Teams meetings and chats and stuff. When the default setting is to have them only come in as attendees, not panelists. So if you are talking Teams meetings, inviting people outside your organization, you can either in the meeting upgrade them to a panelist. It's really easy. You just click on their name and there's the option. Or you can, from the beginning, go to meeting options when you're making the meeting and make it so that people outside your organization are automatically let in as basically panelists and people who are within.
Yep. So. And one thing to keep in mind too, if you are trying this on your account with Teams and those options aren't there for external users or it's not working, check with your administrator for it, because there are security settings that can be set at a global level that limit some of that. I know the big one is by default, you can't give control of your screen to somebody outside your organization. And I mean, that's just a security measure. But if for whatever reason you need to be able to do that, you would have to check and make sure that that's enabled.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. That's a great question. I know we've been using it quite a bit for our external meetings with folks, and it's pretty convenient. And there's some add-ons you can in there for the dial-in number. Is that correct, Justin?
Yeah, I've been using it for pretty much any meeting, any call. If I'm going to schedule it, it plugs right into to Outlook. So make a meeting, press the make it a Teams meeting button, and it pops up a link and a phone number, and people can either dial in, and you still use the same Teams control to admit them, or they come in with their own software if they have Teams installed, or the web client. They just go to the web page. And
they don't need a Microsoft account to join either, and they could just do it on mobile.
Yep. And there's a new, it's kind of half and half. It's rolling out. There's a new page for people when it goes to that website that gives them much clearer options as to click here to just join in the browser, click here to open in Teams, click here to download Teams, because that was a little not designed very well. So there's a new one. Sometimes you'll see it, and that's rolling out now too.
I mean, it was probably designed intentionally because the biggest button is download Teams. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The one question, and you mentioned something, and I think this always confuses a little bit, the admitting of people into the meeting. Could you explain that a little bit? I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah, so that was always a feature. If someone is joining from outside your organization, they get put into a lobby. So that's great because it helps prevent things like, we have an article on Zoom bombing. It's people who happen to get the link somehow joining your meeting that you weren't intending. And even if they're just sitting there listening and taking in information, or they could be malicious and putting as their video something that's inappropriate. So having people in a lobby, usually what happens is they go into the lobby and there's just a check mark. you'll get a pop-up in the middle that'll say, hey, someone's in the lobby. Or if you're looking at the participant screen, there's just a check mark to allow them in.
Cool.
Any panelist can do that, so it doesn't have to be like the organizer needs to be eagle-eyed. But it's good, obviously, at the first like 5 minutes of your meeting to really have that open and ready and be ready.
Yeah, and even if you're doing just a small meeting, and I do that, I use that feature all the time for people that are dialing in, just so that I can be ready. Like they don't just pop up all of a sudden, like, oh, there you are. It's like, oh, let me, get myself ready to go. Okay, press the button. There you go. Get my face on, get ready to go. Or sometimes, before a meeting, we're chatting about something else, and I don't really want somebody jumping in to hear about, our Civilization game last night. It's okay. No, they're here. Let's get ready and go and just press the button.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, we definitely been on calls recently where the other person's like kind of barbarians at the gate, like knocking to get into the call, and the person's like knocking them out. It's like, it happened the other day. It was very funny. It was like, you're like, oh, we'll give them 2 more minutes. They can wait. That kind of thing. So, especially when you start bookending meetings.
Yeah. If you do let someone in and it's not someone who's supposed to be there, or if you have like a bigger meeting and someone's being really disruptive, panelists can remove people from meetings, so they can boot them out.
Very cool.
So that's really good.
That's
and then lastly, this is just like, I didn't know I wanted this, and now I'm like, oh yeah, you can click end meeting for all. Which before, if you as the organizer left the meeting, everyone else could still hang out. They could still be talking. They could, if they weren't paying attention for a second, they could be like coming back with their tea, like, wait, is the meeting over? What's going on? So you end the meeting and everyone gets sort of kicked out, and it's like official over type thing. So.
That's smart. And especially that matters if you're recording, I suppose.
Yeah.
Which is, I know we haven't really touched on that, but I think that's a really powerful functionality in Teams. Once again, if you are recording, it pops up a indication that you are recording. You should probably announce it as well. I think it's useful as a courtesy and privacy kind of thing. So with that in mind, what kind of things we want to see in Teams? Like, what do you guys think is going to happen going forward in the Teamsverse? I don't know if that's the right term. Teams Continuum.
For me, the biggest one that I want is also probably really boring. Is the video processing in Teams is a little CPU intensive. So especially now that you can get 9 participants with everybody running background video and all that other stuff going on, it can eat a lot of resources if you're trying to multitask at the same time. They are moving the Skype for Business system, the way that Skype for Business use video, bringing that into Teams, so that should be a little more streamlined and work a little bit better, and we'll be able to get all those videos up and running and not eat up all your CPU the whole time. So that's boring, but that's what I would like.
No, it's important. And that's why we aren't showing you live demonstrations of Teams. Also, because I couldn't take 5 techs away from their work so that I could show you that 9 panel niceness, But also, I can't show you a live demonstration because I can't run StreamYard and Teams at the same time and have the video quality not suffer. So
another feature that is coming soon on the roadmap is the ability to pop out video like you did the text, and that is a big one if you are doing collaboration stuff inside of Teams. I know, like, we'll send a link, and we'll be doing a meeting, so we'll be talking. We'll send a link in the chat to an Excel sheet that we're all looking at, like, okay, here are the numbers for this week, and clicking on that link, it makes the video in like a small window up in the corner, and you can move it around, but it stays inside the same window as the Excel document. So you either have to open up Excel and one of the features that is going to be coming soon is just drag that video out, and now it's next to it, and you get more screen real estate back. So
I should have made a link to our Windows Snap thing, because I'm talking about it again. You can snap it over. You can snap it. Yep.
Snap.
I use that all the time too.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I see here that we have some interesting thing about notifications. I do find myself sometimes lost in the notifications part of Teams, where I'm like, I missed that completely. So what are you guys seeing coming down? What options do you think are coming?
So the ones that have been in the last few months that have shown up are the ability to pin a specific channel to the top of your, not just the teams. You could always order the teams that you're in, but now, so we have a team for everybody, like the whole company. And one of the channels in there is for the tax, and I pin that one to the top. So if there's a notification there, I see it at the top. Similarly, we have one for scheduled downtime, is whenever we're taking a server offline or something like that, do the same thing. But it's still looking at it, the only notification settings that you really get are the banner and email notification if you've missed something.
Right.
So I would love to see them do some more custom options there, like setting some kind of like a reminder type or something like that. What you can do right now is use Power Automate, which used to be called Flow, to build some custom stuff for that. You can do things like, hey, if there's a message that shows up in this channel, send me a push notification to my phone, like a pop-up notification, or do this thing. Or if you really want to get crazy with it, do like a link to a smart light or something like that, blink a light when I get a message, those types of things. But but I'd love to see some more of that built in, where you can kind of get that without having to find ways around it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, there's definitely like hundreds of little improvements that you find as you start working through the system and use day in, day out. So pretty powerful stuff.
I mean, right now, I just want them to make it easier to have custom backgrounds, so I can be like, "Hey guys, I'm sitting here on the deck of the Firefly."
Exactly. That'd be good stuff. Yeah, and and once again, it's all about as it gets more and more integrated into other Microsoft products or outside third parties, and make it easier to do that sort of stuff. So we'll see what comes down the pipe with that. Beyond that, do you guys have anything else you want to add for today? I think this is a lot of information in 20 minutes. I mean,
I mean, they're always updating. This is a really great one for Teams meetings, especially. But they are always going to be upgrading, updating things, and getting new features. And I'm very excited.
Very cool. Yeah, me too. It's great. I mean, actually, there's so many good stuff. So with that, I want to say thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Justin, for today. There's a lot of great information today. And please check us out at thevaliantway.com and some of our resources on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We're pretty social, at least we try to be. And we'll hope to see you guys next week on Wednesday. We're not sure the topic is yet. We're going to kind of keep it a little loose because it is shifting so quickly what's happening in the world. And we will definitely be here at 10 o'clock, 10:30 next Wednesday. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you then.
See you then.
Bye now.
Bye, guys.